Oh no, the markets have crashed. Wait, what? They're already back up? Oh no, they've crashed again. I guess they're back up again. No matter if the markets crash or if the markets come up, history will tell you that it's always a good time to get in, particularly with the US stock market returning 10% annualized over the past 40 years. And in this video, I'll be breaking down my entire portfolio from A to Z, detailing my buys and sells, also talking about the dividends and income, and what my overall strategy is when it comes to investing in the stock market. Of course, this is just me. I know nothing. I'm a simple guy who likes investing. But I think it's good to be transparent and talk about your financial journey, especially in a world where a lot of scammers out there want to get the best of you by giving you extremely unrealistic goals. My self-managed portfolio here has reached $119,000. And as you can see, it is down around $4,290 in the past month. This is because the US stock market, particularly the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100, has seen a retreat in the past month or so. But I encourage you to zoom out here and go to the 3-month chart. Or maybe if you're not satisfied, the 6-month chart. If you're not satisfied with that, how about the 1-year chart? With this portfolio in particular being up $11,196 in the past year alone, which is a return of roughly 10.35%. And if you look at the S&P 500 on average, it also returns roughly 10% with dividends reinvested. All of my different accounts are down during the same time frame, with my TFSA or my tax-free savings account for non-Canadians being down 3%, my RRSP or my retirement savings account like the 401k being down more than $1,000, my crypto being down 13.64%, but my FHSA or my first home savings account, an account made by the Canadian government to help people save for their first home, actually being up $466, specifically because I have more Canadian stocks in this than US stocks. So am I scared? Am I losing my mind? Having cold sweats at night, not being able to sleep? Personally, no. And in fact, I kept on adding to my portfolio, adding more money, particularly in ETFs. My biggest buys were in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100, ETFs tracking the 500 biggest companies in America and also the 100 biggest companies as well. The NASDAQ 100 is a bit more tech focused and has seen a large drawdown in the past few months, but tech companies continue to create massive value, are massively profitable, and have products that are extremely sticky and are not going away anytime soon. So I bought into the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100 through ETFs, VFV, a Vanguard product, and HXQ, a Horizons product, as well as investing in the Canadian market through VDY, another Vanguard ETF. I also put some money into covered call ETFs, particularly in HYLD that tracks the S&P 500 and HDIV that tracks the TSX 60. Covered call ETFs are controversial and we'll get into dividends later on, but I am investing a bit of my money in covered call ETFs just to see if I like this investing strategy or not, and if I'm being completely honest, the income is an extremely big motivating factor for me. I also bought some Canadian staple companies like Manulife Financial, the Bank of Nova Scotia, and TELUS. Companies in the insurance industry, the banking industry, and the telecommunications industry. 3 industries that are not going anywhere in Canada. If you think they're going anywhere anytime soon, I don't know what to tell you. A new buy that I made in this portfolio was a leveraged S&P 500 ETF. I personally think the S&P 500 and the US stock market in particular is a good investment for the long run. This ETF takes the S&P 500 and adds 25% leverage to your holdings. That amplifies your returns, but it also amplifies your losses. And as you can see, I am already down 5% on this since the markets have been down since I bought this. However, if you do think in the long run, the S&P 500 is going to be profitable and is going to increase in price, this ETF adds 25% leverage, which basically means, for example, if your ETF rises by 10%, this is going to rise by roughly 12.5%. Just an experiment, something that I added a bit of money in. Let's see how this goes. By the way, if you're enjoying this breakdown so far, please remember to smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, just go on your phone and do it. If you want to learn how to make more money, how to better understand it, or just better grow it. My only crypto buy is Ethereum. I've mentioned this many times in my Invest With Me videos, but I think Ethereum has the best ecosystem and the most amount of companies developing on its blockchain, which I think is going to be a positive for it if any of those companies actually do end up solving real problems in the financial industry, the legal industry, whatever industry they're operating in. As for sells, I don't really like to sell anything because I'm holding for the long run, but some companies might force my hand. In particular, Intel. I bought Intel as an opportunistic investment when it went down quite a lot after earnings, but as we've learned in the past few months, Nvidia has taken the lead in the AI chip race, and Intel is losing contracts, does not seem to have good leadership, and is not investing in the right product areas, so it could mean further problem and disaster for its stock price. But since I have such a small percentage of my portfolio in it, I might actually choose to hold on and see where it takes me. My biggest holding for the foreseeable future, I think, will always be the S&P 500, and it has returned me almost 18% since I started building this portfolio less than 2 years ago. VDY, or the Canadian S&P 500, is also a big percentage of my portfolio. It has returned me 6%, but it also has a much higher dividend yield at around 4.5 to 4.8%, which these returns do not factor in. I have less than 13% of my portfolio combined in HYLD and HDIV, both returning me 4.84% and 3.32% respectively. However, the dividend yield on these is much higher at around 11 to 12%, which once again, these returns don't factor in. As for individual companies, my biggest individual holding is in Apple. It's returned me 26% so far and has been on a tear lately. I think Apple products are extremely sticky, are not going anywhere anytime soon, so I do want to add on to this position. My other big individual holdings include Microsoft, which has returned me 17% so far, P&G, which has returned 11%, and Pepsi, which is actually down 1.13% for me, but the company financials look solid, so I do want to add on to all of these positions as I get more cash. The biggest losers in my portfolio for now, one I mentioned before, Intel, has lost 30%, and also Snowflake has lost 38.4%. Snowflake is an extremely moonshot growth play since I have used Snowflake products personally, and I think they have some competitive advantage when it comes to cloud data storage and particularly making efficient use of your data on the cloud. And as you'll notice, a large percentage of my portfolio is in ETFs, which is a target I have for this year as well. Maybe not selling the individual companies, but adding even more money into ETFs as opposed to individual companies, because it's a more passive way of investing. I don't have to track all of the companies, I don't have to track what news there is, I can just invest in ETFs and be extremely hands-off. You might be wondering, where is this 142 coming from? Well, I have around $22,000 in an RRSP plan. Employers in the US or in Canada offer retirement matching. Essentially, that means if you put in 4% of your income, 5% of your income, and so on towards your retirement, the company matches it to a certain amount, and you can invest that together in the stock market or in other investments. I chose to partake in this for my employment and put in roughly $10,000. My employer, as you can see here, has matched $10,000 as well, and this has also grown around $3,000, which is extremely good to see. I don't really check this often, so I am pretty satisfied with the performance, because usually managed investments do not perform as well. If your employer offers RRSP matching or 401k matching, I highly suggest you take advantage of that. Not financial advice, I guess I have to say that, but it just makes sense. You're putting down 4%, you're getting a 4% match. That is an automatic 100% return. Not many other investments can give that to you. That's for the main portfolio. What about the dividends? Well, I'm using the Stock Events app to track my dividends, since it compiles all of them for you. If you go to Wealthsimple and other brokers, they have these accounts listed separately, so you're not going to see a concise and calculated view. If you know about any apps, please let me know, but for now I'm sticking with Stock Events. So I have roughly $4,150 in annual dividends, which turns out to $345 a month, or $11 a day. My portfolio yield is 3.8% on cost and roughly 3.5% on the current price. This is a bit misleading because this doesn't take into account my work RRSP. If you add that money in, the yield comes around to around 2.9%. And this is getting to a point where I'm actually seeing the snowball, with sometimes even making $483 for a month. That is just ridiculous. It's $483 for doing nothing. My goal for this is to grow this to $4,800 or $400 a month, but also to drive the yield down a bit. This is a bit higher than I would like, although now I want to repurpose some more cash into the US stock market and not really heavily invest in the Canadian market. And so I want to target a yield of 2.5%. I'm not too worried about it, since honestly it is a good motivating factor to see cash flow come in. My biggest pairs are the covered call ETFs plus the S&P 500 and the Canadian TSX 60, but companies like P&G, Pepsi, TELUS, and the Bank of Nova Scotia also pay well, with smaller positions in BCE and Enbridge as well. So that was the entire breakdown. What about the future? Well, my first goal is to grow this to 150,000. I am pretty close. It's only 8,000 away, so hopefully I can get that by the end of the year. And to increase my income to $400 a month. I plan on doing these every month just so that people can also follow along with the progress and also get some motivation or that initial push to start investing, because it can be daunting at the start, but hopefully if people like me and others are being transparent with their financial journey, it's going to be a motivating factor for people just to start looking at their finances as well. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.